So what really makes someone creative? Is it just some kind of random lightning strike of genius, or is there something more to it? Well, today we're going to dig into Sternberg and Lubart's investment and confluence theory of creativity. And trust me, it completely changes the game on how we think about where great ideas come from.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into the theory's core idea, this whole contrarian approach. Then we'll unpack the 6 essential resources you need in your toolkit. After that, we'll see how they all have to work together. And we'll zoom in on 2 of the most critical pieces of that puzzle. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the biggest takeaway, how you can start investing in your own creativity.
So first up, this idea of a contrarian approach. This is really where the theory gets its name, and it draws this absolutely fascinating parallel between being a creative genius and being a super savvy investor.
I know, it sounds a little weird, right? What on earth does Wall Street have to do with artistry or innovation? But stick with me, because the connection is actually incredibly powerful. The theory really just asks us to think like an investor, but the currency we're dealing with? Well, it's ideas.
Think about it. In the world of finance, the truly brilliant investors, they don't just follow the crowd. They're always on the hunt for undervalued assets. The stuff that everyone else is overlooking or totally dismissing. They buy low. Then they play the long game, holding on to that investment, growing it, until the rest of the world finally catches on. And once its value is recognized, that's when they sell high. And that right there is the heart of this theory. Creative people do the exact same thing, just with ideas. They chase after concepts that seem new, or maybe a little weird, or just plain unpopular at the time. In other words, they buy low. Then, through sheer hard work and persistence, they develop that idea and persuade other people of its value until it becomes widely accepted. Then, they sell high.
Okay, so if you're going to be an idea investor, what do you actually need in your portfolio? Well, the theory says there are 6 key resources that you've got to have. So let's break them down.
These are the 6 big ones for our intellectual portfolio. We're talking intellectual abilities, your knowledge base, certain styles of thinking, specific personality traits, your motivation, and of course, the environment you're in.
First up, intellectual abilities. Now, this is not just about having a high IQ. It's about a very specific set of skills. It's the ability to see old problems in a totally new light, the skill to sift through all your ideas and figure out which ones are actually worth your time, and the practical know-how to actually sell that idea to other people.
Next, you need knowledge. You can't really push the boundaries of a field if you don't even know where the boundaries are, right? But here's the catch. Sometimes, knowing too much can box you in. It can lead to rigid, stuck-in-your-ways thinking. So it's all about finding that perfect balance, knowing enough to be an expert, but not so much that you lose the ability to see things with fresh eyes.
Third is your thinking style. This one is huge. The theory points to something it calls a legislative style. And what that really means is you prefer to come up with your own rules. You enjoy thinking in new ways and forging your own path instead of just following the one that's already laid out for you.
Number 4, personality. To buy low on an unpopular idea, you have to be the kind of person who's willing to stand apart from the crowd. And that requires some specific traits, like the resilience to push past obstacles, the guts to take smart risks, being okay with uncertainty, and just having the conviction to stick with your ideas when everyone else thinks you're crazy.
Fifth on the list is motivation. And let me tell you, this is a biggie. The theory is super clear on this. What really matters is intrinsic motivation. That means you're driven by a genuine passion for the work itself. You just love the challenge and the process, and you're not just in it for some external reward like a paycheck or an award.
And last but not least, number 6, your environment. You can have all the smarts, knowledge, and motivation in the world, but if you're in a place that shuts down new ideas, your creativity might just wither on the vine. You need a supportive space that actually encourages and rewards that kind of thinking.
So, you see, having these 6 resources is one thing, but the real magic of this theory is in the idea of confluence, this notion that they all have to come together, to flow together, to create something truly innovative.
See, confluence means that creativity isn't just about adding these things up, it's interactive. All 6 of these resources have to converge and really work together. And what's super interesting is this idea of compensation. For example, if you're in an environment that's not super supportive, an incredibly strong motivation can help you push through and succeed anyway.
This really shows you how dynamic it is. It's not some simple checklist you can just tick off. It's a living system where your abilities are applied to what you know, They're shaped by your thinking style and your personality. They're fueled by your motivation, and it all happens within a certain environment. They feed off of each other. They amplify each other.
So let's just zoom in for a second on two of those resources that are really, really critical when it comes to actually making things happen: your internal drive and your external surroundings. This quote from researcher Teresa Amabile really just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures why motivation is so important. That deep, genuine love for what you're doing, that's the fuel. That's what keeps you going through all the late nights and the tough challenges when you're trying to bring a new idea into the world.
So the key thing to understand is the difference between these two drivers. Intrinsic motivation, that comes from inside you. It's the joy of solving the puzzle. Extrinsic motivation comes from the outside. The trophy, the bonus, the good grade. And while that stuff isn't always bad, focusing too much on it can actually choke out the kind of free-flowing exploration that creativity really needs.
So where does this all leave us? What's the big takeaway from this whole investment theory? How do we actually use it?
Well, for me, the most powerful takeaway is this. Creativity isn't some magical gift that only a few people have. It's a decision. It's a choice you make. It's the choice to buy low when everyone else is looking the other way. It's the decision to actively grow these 6 resources and make them work together, especially when it means going against what's popular.
And when you get right down to it, this is the goal of that whole investment. As the theorists themselves put it, creativity is all about making work that is not only new and original, but also appropriate. It's useful. It's not just weird for the sake of being weird. It's novelty with a real purpose.
And that really brings us to the final thought. If creative geniuses are really just investors playing in a different kind of market, then the only question left to ask yourself is, what unpopular, overlooked, or undervalued idea are you willing to invest in?